Alright, hello guys, it's Robert here, and we have another birthday coming up, so it's time to make another cake. It's going to be a banana cake with the cream cheese frosting. So the secret to this being super moist is the oven temperature is actually going to be at 275 degrees Fahrenheit, followed by a stint in the freezer. So it's gonna be nice and moist, and we're gonna show you the ingredients. You will need 3 bananas, a lemon, 3 cups of flour, 3/4 of a cup of butter, 2 1/8 cups of sugar. What that is basically is it is 2 cups plus 2 tablespoons of sugar. So for every 1/8 of a cup, it's 2 tablespoons. You'll also need 3 eggs, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1.5 cups of buttermilk. So we're going to preheat our oven to 275 Fahrenheit, and we will get started on the batter. Of course, what we need to do first is spray a 9 by 13 inch pan. I am using a olive oil spray, but of course you can use any kind of oil, butter spray. Of course, I've been saying this in a lot of recipes, but any mechanism for greasing. I'm just gonna take some of the flour out of these 3 cups, about 1.5 tablespoons, and I'm simply going to shake it around a little. Shake, rattle, and roll. I want it to be evenly distributed, and we don't want the cake to stick, so that's why we add some flour. I'll put in just a little bit more. I have a medium-sized bowl here. I am going to peel my bananas. You want to make sure you use ripe bananas because they taste better, and since they're softer, it will incorporate easier into the batter. So I'm just peeling this skin off, breaking these in half, just so they can fit in here. Now I'm going to use a potato masher and mash these up until they are nice and smooth. And these 3 bananas are enough for about 1.5 cups of mashed bananas when they're all done. I have my lemon here. I am simply going to cut it in half, and then I am going to simply squeeze some fresh juice into there. I'll get the seeds out when I'm finished, but I want to squeeze enough juice to make about a good 2 teaspoons, and I'm just gonna incorporate this. Now the lemon juice is an acid. It is going to keep the bananas from turning brown. See, it looks nice and smooth. All right, I'm gonna set this aside until we need them. I am going to whisk the flour, baking powder, and salt in this bowl right here. I put the butter in the stand mixer. I am going to add in my sugar, and then I'm going to cream these together. And I'm gonna let this go for about 3-4 minutes. I want it to get nice and fluffy. All right, so this looks nice and fluffy. I am just going to give this a little scrape just to make sure everything gets incorporated here. You want to be scraping this from time to time just to make sure everything gets mixed in well. I am going to now put in the eggs, which I just cracked. I'm going to do this one at a time. Lock it up and just mix it in there. And you will see that within seconds, the mixture will start to thin up and become more moist. See that happening? All right, now I'm going to add the second egg. And then this egg. Just increase the speed a little. Now I'm going to add the vanilla extract. You can see the mixture is starting to get lighter because we're incorporating more air. What I'm gonna do now is alternate adding my dry ingredients and the buttermilk. I'm going to just take a couple spoonfuls of this mixture and just dump it in there, just a few spoonfuls at a time. And it is okay if a little bit goes off the side here. Just want to mix these in. As you can see, this is starting to turn a little bit like into a dough, but we're not making bread or anything dough related. So we're gonna thin this up with just about a third of the buttermilk. So that's the 1.5 cups of buttermilk. That's a good third. I am going to add a few more spoonfuls of flour. And what you could basically do is, if you see any flour coming off the sides of the mixer, like a little mess on the side, what you could basically do is you could just incorporate it in there. You could just dump that mess of flour into the bowl. So as you can see, I just dumped the rest of the flour in there. As you can see, it's starting to become more dough-like. So of course I am going to actually add in the rest of my buttermilk. And then this is going to make my batter really, really nice and smooth. I am going to slow down the mixer just a little bit. And if you don't have buttermilk, you can take this 1.5 cups of milk and mix it with 1.5 teaspoons of lemon juice or vinegar. That really is like buttermilk. I'll just turn this up a little bit. We don't want to overmix it. All right, perfect. As you can see, our batter looks amazing. I'm going to take this and this. I'm going to clean off my little whisk attachment, and then I'll be back for the next step. All right, so what we need to do next is we need to add our lovely banana mixture into our cake batter. Now, it did not brown at all because of the magic of that lemon juice. Because it's an acid, it will help to prevent the bananas from browning. So I'm simply going to fold the bananas into the cake batter. Don't overmix, or it can end up tough. Who wants to end up with a tough cake or anything? Just want to fold this, scrape down the sides to make sure we get everything incorporated in here. Okay, so here is my pan, and the KitchenAid stand mixer bowl has a handle on it, so it is really, really easy to pour a batter into a cake pan. I'm simply going to take all of this goodness and get it into the pan. And then once it's in there, I'm going to put it in the oven at 275 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'll bake it for an hour. And then after that, once I get it out of the oven, I am going to put it in the freezer for 45 minutes, and that helps to make the cake nice and moist, and it also speeds up the cooling time, which is really, really cool what the recipe did. So just want to get all this goodness out here. Make sure you use a spatula to get all of this out here. I'm just going to spread this out a little bit evenly. All right, perfect. Into the oven this goes for an hour, and then I will come back after this comes out of the freezer. All right, so now the cake is in the freezer and it is time to make the frosting. You will need a half a cup of softened butter, 3.5 cups of confectioner's sugar. You can also say it as powdered or icing sugar. 3 different names, but it's all the same sugar. You're also going to need 8 ounces of softened cream cheese. This is just 1 block. And then last but not least, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. All right, so I just cleaned out my mixer bowl and beater, and I'm going to put in the cream cheese, and the butter. Fingers are a little messy here. I am going to put my mixer on, and I'm going to cream these together. All right, now I'm going to add in the vanilla extract. Make sure it's nicely combined here. And now I'm going to slowly on low speed, I'm going to add in the powdered sugar. Alright, so I'm gonna mix this on low speed until this gets nice and combined there, and then I'm gonna switch to high speed and beat the frosting until smooth. But at this point, I don't want to change the speed because I don't want a big cloud of icing sugar going up all over the kitchen. Alright, so after just a few seconds here, the frosting started out as like a big crumbly of like icing sugar into this beautiful smooth consistency that is spreadable, and it'll be ready for our cake when it comes out of the freezer, and it's about 20 more minutes to go. Alright, so here is our banana cake. It just came out of the freezer and it's still a little bit warm on the bottom, but it's mostly cool. This has been in the oven for about an hour and 40 or 50 minutes. The reason I gave it this extra time is because at the 1 hour mark, I inserted a knife in the center and it did not come out clean. And then I did like 10-minute intervals where I would just let the oven go, and then when the timer went off, I would put the knife in. It still didn't come out clean, and then after literally like about 20 minutes, I tested again, still wasn't ready. As you could see, like the little holes in the center, and then I let it go 10 more minutes, and then it was ready. So Then I immediately put it in the freezer for 45 minutes, as I might have just said, and this is what is going to help to make the cake nice and moist. As you can see, the sides of the cake have pulled away from the edges, so that is a good indication that the cake is baked. And the reason why this cake is also moist is because of the buttermilk. If we use buttermilk instead of regular milk, the acid in there is going to make it nice and tender. So I am going to take my delicious cream cheese frosting. Gonna take me a while here, but I am going to simply get it on here and I will spread it all over the entire cake. My cake is beautifully frosted. Ta-da! Here's what it looks like. Of course, you can make your own birthday cake with a banana cake. You can decorate it however you want. So it's like up to this point, like after you put on the cream cheese frosting, it is your desires on what you want to do. So this is what I was doing here because I'm celebrating my brother Riley on his 10th birthday. I'll see you again next time, guys. Goodbye.